Hey friends, it's Gabriel Schickler. This is the Operation Paragon podcast, and today we answer the kind of important question, what even is a paragon? What does that mean? The reason I'm making this episode, of course, is the whole project is called Operation Paragon, but I realized not everyone probably knows what that really means or what that standard is. So let's get right into it here. A paragon, as defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is, quote, a model of excellence or perfection, end quote. It's very simple, very straightforward, but there's a lot. So a model is something that should be imitated. Now, should you seek excellence or perfection just so that you will be imitated? No, and we will get into that later. But the idea is that you are, to the best of your ability, living as best as you can with as much integrity and virtue and strength and all these other things, and just really almost justifying your time on the planet, right? Making your life worth it, not just for yourself, but also for the impact that you will ultimately have on other people in the world. And that's why this project is important to me, and I hope that it can benefit you, is because the world is a freaking broken place at this point. And it needs you more than ever because there is so much artificiality in the world around us that many people just don't have any idea of how different their lives could be, how much better they could feel, how much better they could act, how much more proud of themselves they could be, just because that's never even cross their mind. They don't even really know that that's an option. And so to live in a way that is set apart and truly of merit, just by its own nature, people will say, oh, that's attractive. I want to be more like that. And so that's the goal here, right? It's through our own isolated individual efforts, we create enough of a ripple effect to dramatically change society, culture, the way people think. And even if it doesn't ever turn into like a huge movement or something, right? You can know on your deathbed at the end of your life that you really gave this, thing we call lifetime your all. You showed up as best you could, you helped people as best you could, and you left it all on the table, right? So your life was actually worth it. And you'll know that based on what you put into it. And that's not something you can really gaslight yourself into getting past, because deep down, you'll always know. So, the way I see it, the idea of this paragon is broken down into two fields. So first is this personal type of paragon, which is pure and simple, just a competition with yourself. So you're utilizing your potential, your gifts, your time, your resources, so on, to become the best version of yourself. And we hear this all the time, right? I'm living my best life. I'm being the best version of myself. This isn't some feel-good affirmation of bad habits or just doing what feels good to you in the moment and chasing, cheap dopamine fixes and things like that. This is truly being the person that you would be the most proud to be, and becoming the kind of person that, again, on your deathbed, you can look back and say, I don't regret anything. I don't regret anything I did. I don't regret missing or failing to do something. Like, I'm proud of what I did with my time here, and I believe that it was the best I could have done. And this is essential for mastery in general, because you have to master the interior world of building that paragon, right? That excellence and that perfection in yourself before you can have any hope of excellence in the exterior world, right? Because everything that we do that affects other people is just an outgrowth of our own character and who we are, right? So if you're, for example, not a disciplined person, you might say, oh, I want to, I want to volunteer in my community and help people, right? That's all well and good, and it's well intentioned, but there are a lot of people that will start that, and then they'll chase a shiny object, or they'll get bored, or something will come up and they'll just keep making excuses, and that thing will never actually end up happening. And, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be you. So this is why it's so important. You need to have that foundation built within yourself to have that discipline and that fortitude and that clarity of purpose that will really give you the fuel and the foundation that you need to build and genuinely affect other people's lives. Again, not in a way that is just for your own self-aggrandizement or edification, but genuinely wanting to serve other people and help them to improve their situations, their lives, and then, everything else they touch as a result of it. So that is the personal paragon, which is the first part of it. And the second one is the competitive paragon. And I've wrestled with the idea of competition, who you should be competing with, who you shouldn't be, what you have something to prove to, the people that you don't have anything to prove to, for a very long time. But the thing that I'm coming to realize is that simply saying you are only competing with yourself is just a load of bull all by itself. So it is true, as I understand, that you shouldn't measure yourself solely on other people's merits because they don't have the same backgrounds, they don't have the same trials, they don't have the same opportunities as you, they don't have the same resources. And so to draw a comparison between yourself and another person and just say like, oh, I'm better than you, is kind of short-sighted and dumb. Or on the flip side, thinking that you're inferior to a person because you're not producing, for example, the same results that they are with different opportunities, different choices that you made along the line. And that's all well and good. But it is also an objective fact that some people are better than you and some people are worse than you. And this is not saying with respect to human dignity or their worth as human beings, but in a specific field, right? If I were to, for example, get on a basketball court with LeBron James, it wouldn't matter if I was just judging myself based on my own efforts and my own abilities, because the guy would absolutely mop the floor with me. For those of you that don't know me in person, I've played maybe half a dozen games of basketball in my life, and it has never been my sport of choice. So no matter how only competing with myself I go, that guy is going to demolish me. And that's not to say that I should judge myself on his standard, because it's, he has had years and years and years and years of dedicated, determined focus on this one thing, and I have not. So it's not fair to expect my outcomes to be the same as his. But at the same time, there is a reason that I would not survive in the world of professional basketball, which is I don't meet that minimum standard to, actually show up and perform at the level that's necessary. And so that is what the competitive paragon is, right? It's not only striving to be the best version of yourself, but actually striving to make an impact and a difference in the world. And again, this can only happen as an outgrowth of personal character and focus that you've already cultivated within yourself. And so it's more of an outgrowth as opposed to a separate thing all by itself. And that's not to say that not being competitive is a bad thing, right? Everybody has different strengths, different weaknesses. And so if you're truly giving something your all and you're just not seeing the results you want and you're not making the progress that you want, because this is very important to remember that results usually have a huge lag time between when you start and when they actually start to show up, right? Because you've proven that you have the consistency to actually build to that point. But it might be an indication that you need to direct your talents and your focus in a better way that will give you more of an edge, right? So for example, if somebody is 60, it might not be a good time for them to get into professional bodybuilding because they don't have that youthful vigor. They don't have the energy necessarily. Their skin's probably started to get saggy and their joints hurt and they've started to slow down and, all these different things. That's not to say that they're bad, but they're certainly not competitive in that field. So they would be much better suited taking the wisdom and the experience that they've gathered over their lifetime and putting it to use in another way that isn't in that specific field. So I hope this all makes sense. And the reason that the competitive paragon is so important and shouldn't be disregarded is because this is what sets the example for other people. So they can actually see that you are living in a way that you find valuable. And then the right people are going to see that and say, well, if he has that, why can't I? And there is, there's going to be hate and there's going to be doubt and fear and all these things from you and other people as you're clawing your way to the top of whatever field you're in. That's just how the world works. But once you get there and you have the undeniable proof, you don't need to be the example for everyone. You need to be the example for the right people. And that's the beautiful thing about life, is that there's never a one-size-fits-all solution, right? So whatever impact you go to have in the world, whether you just work a simple 9-to-5 job and you're active in, your community or your church or, just present in your children's life, whatever it is, that might be it. Like, it doesn't have to be anything grandiose, but just having that presence and showing that you've built a life that you're proud of can set that example for other people. And again, it is so important that we have that, because so few people are living lives that they are genuinely proud of. I feel like this some days, and I'm sure many of you do as well. You wake up and you're like, am I really going to do anything worthwhile today, or am I just running out the clock? And that's a terrible feeling to have. And so the responsibility for us is to build ourselves into the people that we would be proud to be, and then to show that to other people in the hopes that they will similarly want that, and then work to improve their station and their position in life. And again, you're not putting yourself out there so that people can see it and be like, oh, aren't you wonderful? You're putting it out there to show them that it is possible, that you're just, a normal guy, or in some cases, right, a normal gal that's just off living their life, but they've done the right things and they've kept the right focuses and they've gotten where they want to be. And that is so necessary in the world today, as I've stressed many times. So the question then becomes, all right, we know what a paragon is, we know why it's important, and we know the different fields that you need to operate in. The question then becomes, how do you get there? I am not going to pretend to be some kind of grand sensei sitting on a mountaintop and telling you the secrets of the universe or anything like that, because I'm very much in the process of discovering this myself. But what I have learned up until this point is that building that self-mastery and that discipline and being personally accountable and building virtues and competencies that are attractive to you is the way. A lot of people will say, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And it's like, well, you're taking the journey to get to the destination, but if you zone out for the entire journey and you don't learn anything, will the destination be worth it? And then will you even be able to get there? Because you won't have learned the lessons that will actually get you to that point. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that. I have my own thoughts with regard to that question. The point is, you need to figure out what you admire, and then stop thinking about it in, oh, someday I will be this. One of these days I'll get around to that. Once I do this and this and this and blah, 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 then I can start focusing on becoming the type of person I'm proud to be. No. Because if you tell yourself that you'll do something when you have time, surprise, surprise, you will never find time. And even if you do, you will almost immediately find a convenient excuse, because something else will come up in your life, something else that's going to demand your focus and your attention. You can say, oh, well, I'll get back to that once I'm more free. It's not how life works, guys. This isn't like a video game where you can just open up your quest log and decide what you want to do and then go off and everything just sits still. Time keeps moving on, whether you like it or not. And so you need to really be honest with yourself. Is it important to you to become this type of person or not? If it's not, I would personally not agree with that decision, but that is your call to make. If this is important to you, you need to make sure that nothing will get in your way of actually going after it. Because if everybody did that, there would be no role models whatsoever. And the reason, again, we need them so badly is because they aren't present in the world today. And this introduces a huge problem because we make idols out of like Captain America or Luke Skywalker or whatever, all these fictional characters. And that's fine to have an ideal or somebody that you're striving to become. But those characters are not real people. And so what happens is people come out into the real world and they will really like somebody, and then they'll find out something about them that completely destroys their perception. They're like, I thought he was a good person. How could he have done this? Tiger Woods is a good example, right? Most accomplished golfer, I think, undeniably, of all time. And he had that, huge scandal with an affair he was having and all this stuff several years back. And people were like, oh man, this guy just totally compromised his life. And it's like, guys, he's a human being. He has faults. He has flaws. If you think somebody is completely faultless and is never going to disappoint you, you're not looking hard enough, or they're just very good at hiding it. But they're still a human being. They're prone to the same weaknesses and faults as all the rest of us. And it's a question of, can they keep those in check and keep moving forward in spite of them? Not because they don't have them. And so that is why setting that example in your life as just an everyday person is so important. Because we don't have these role models in the real world anymore. And people need to be grounded in reality and experience what it's actually like to live that. That it's not easy. It doesn't come naturally. You need to build up these competencies and these skill sets. And you're going to be assaulted by your weaknesses and your fears and your shortcomings the entire way. And that's part of the game. It's not abnormal. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of life. But so many people don't understand that because all of our heroes are these idolized, romanticized versions of virtues that just don't have that ugly realism to them that will actually give people reasonable expectations for life and their existence on this planet. So that was a bit of a rabbit hole to go down, but that was extremely important. Stay committed to your principles and ideals. Figure out what you truly admire. Get after it. Do not wait. Literally right now, get out a sheet of paper and write down one thing non-negotiably that you're going to do tomorrow that the type of person you admire would do. And that is a very valuable question that has helped me at many points throughout the past couple years in my own journey, is stepping back and saying, what would the person I admire most do in this situation? Because, spoiler alert, the things you admire in other people are things that you recognize as good and want for yourself. So it makes sense that you would try to behave in a certain way. And then if we, follow the belief from the Greek philosophers that we are what we repeatedly do, and excellence is not an accident or an action, but a habit, then as you build up the habit of behaving in this manner, you will become the kind of person that you want to be, and you will become that paragon that will be worthy of imitation, worthy to be followed in whatever capacity that exists in your life. And again, you will end this life knowing that you left it all on the table, and you're truly proud of your time here. So with that being said, as I've said on this show and many other times, I am just at the beginning of my journey, so I'm not pretending to have all of the answers, but I think I have a pretty good starting point, at least philosophically, to understand what this all means. So I'm going to ask you guys, please keep me accountable to living with honor and integrity and all these other things that I talk about. And that's not like, me just saying it to get it out of the way. Like, seriously, if you see me screwing up, even if you're listening to this episode and I've never talked to you in person, if you see me screwing up with something, I want you to send me a DM and be like, Gabe, come on. You're better than this. Because we all need that. And a lot of times we are blind to our own faults, right? So please keep me accountable. Hit me up if you want to talk over anything, you have any ideas about this, you have anything you want to be held accountable on. I would love to support you guys in any way that I can. And remember, the goal is to become a paragon, to not settle for less, to not let the events of life beat you into submission or just accept good enough. I have no interest in living a mediocre, good enough life, and I get the feeling you don't either, and you probably as I do, think that the people that say good enough are just the ones that are scared to try for something better. And I think that's a very sad way to live. And if you're listening to this and you've gotten to this point, you probably agree. So, with that being said, gentlemen, get after it. Do that thing that you wrote down for tomorrow. Doesn't have to be huge. Just one simple thing that you're going to turn into a habit that will start moving you toward the person that you want to become. If you want to get in contact with me, you all know at this point, you can DM Operation Paragon on Instagram. You can email operationparagonpodcast@gmail.com. Or, if you have my phone number, shoot me a text, because I know a couple of you listening do. But, as always, thank you very much for listening, everybody. This is an honor. I hope you've gotten some value out of this episode and maybe a little bit more clarity with what the mission here actually is and whether or not you want to get on board with it. And remember, guys, we're not alone in this. We've got each other. We've got plenty of people that have gone before us that may not know our paths, but they know enough of the way to help us out. So lean on them, hit me up. Let's all become paragons, huh?